everyone, and welcome to the second episode of With the Director. Today I'll be talking about the first episode of the Mindless Show. Pierre's still here.
Hello.
Yes. So it's a comedy episode. What do we got? So it starts with a little comedy. So I had planned out the idea of doing a, obviously, topic based around comedy pretty much since I came up with the idea for the rest of it. The idea for the rest of it had been developing since mid-season 3 because I was like, I still wanted to do the show after the end of the season, even though I had the end episode be the end. So I kind of had said like, oh yeah, it's totally the end of the show, even though the second half of that episode is just me saying, yeah, no, we're doing another season. But the rest of it went through different layers of how I was going to make it, specifically because originally it was meant to be like this 20 episode thing with a whole narrative running through it. And then, even though it was meant to be more cinematically shot rather than have a narrative, but then it evolved into a lot shorter of a season. I can't remember how many episodes we even did in the end, because we were moving, of course. So that became a problem. I was like, well, shit, how the hell am I going to film this? Which made a lot of later episodes much trickier to film because a lot of guests weren't able to come over to this location, which was annoying, but I made do with how to do it, like in the gaming episode and the final episodes of Lachlan. So let's talk about the influences for this episode. So for the pre-credit sequence, the episode was strongly influenced by Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, which is a BBC miniseries that only lasted one season, but I find it to be absolutely hilarious, and it's very much a cult show. It's got actors like Matt Berry and Richard Ayoade, or however the hell you pronounce his surname, to pretty well-known British actors if you've watched shows like The IT Crowd. And I definitely thank Guy, who helped film the trailer. He introduced me to that show, and I think he did at least. Him and his mate had suggested it to me, and I watched it and I loved it, and I have it on DVD and it's great. And so that whole intro was inspired by that intro, and of course he had the Dark Place music and everything, so it was kind of an on-the-nose reference for those who had even knew anything about Dark Place. Of course they do it much better than me, but so yeah, the opening scene of it, so post-credits, because the credits was a mixture of the credits, the trailer stuff, again used just to dramatify the episode, and just shots of me and my mates just going, yeah, funny faces and dabbing and stuff, because, sitcom kind of inspired. So then the opening scene, of course, is myself, Bryn and Michael, aka 4Mana77 and Keldrick Druid, talking about how I want to create this narrative for the show and how I want to actually make the show much more than it is. So with a kind of meta-awareness, but no also awareness that the show itself, like, pretty much what I do in that scene is explain what I want to make for the show, which is, of course, the rest of it, which is kind of in itself, not exactly a joke, but just its own meta kind of thing of like, yeah, my character wants to make a show that I'm already making, which of course becomes his whole aim of the show, to make something like that, but it also becomes a fight against the audience, hence why the villain exists, because they are the audience, not exactly you guys specifically, but like a general idea of some audience that's so very, evil and whatever, and doesn't like, YouTube comment type audience, which I don't get, which I'm happy about. As in, I don't get those kind of hate comments and stuff. But that's the kind of idea I was going for. I don't actually think that the audience of the Mindless Show are that kind of people, and I thank God. Yeah, so that whole scene was pretty much the only narrative part of the episode, where it was just, I want to set up this whole idea. Of course, we have suggestions from the other two saying, yeah, maybe make it like blended and slowly, do a few episodes where it's just kind of the normal kind of thing. So again, that whole episode, the comedy episode, is just us sitting there on the couch, it being a normal thing. We have the start sequence, which is a narrative thing, and then the post-credit sequence with Bryn as the villain, obviously looking at a laptop being like, I don't like this idea that you're coming up with, Mr. Mindless, of making a show that actually has a narrative, which the whole relevance of the relation of how that guy sees the scene don't ask. It's just its own thing. It's kind of as if the villain is more of an overseer of everything that's happening, so not like as if like the secret cameras kind of shit, that kind of Big Brother kind of stuff. So not actually as if the guy can see through every fucking camera, or even when we're not actually recording the show, as seen in the last 2 episodes. So yeah, of course that introduces the concept of the villain, which I had the mask already just because it came with the collector's edition of V for Vendetta, and I was like, hey, it's it's synonymous with the anonymous thing. What's the media thing where you've got different medias that connect into one, like
Intertextuality.
Yeah, intertextuality. It's that kind of thing of pulling from a text of like, okay, most audiences are going to recognize this mask as the V for Vendetta, aka the Guy Fawkes mask, and that's like 2 whole different categories of like revolutionary and like anti whatever, and all that kind of stuff. So it was that kind of thing that I was looking for, but also it covers up the person's face pretty damn well. And it's like, hey, because it's meant to represent that everyone is kind of this figment in the show, the villain, again in quotations. Yeah, so rather than actually having the episode play as a quote-unquote comedy, it's just us being a normal talk show, because I wanted to still be a normal talk show about us talking about comedies. That was mainly done just to set it in the kind of idea of like, yeah, the show's still gonna be like what you've seen before, but with additional stuff, whether it be most of the episode or a very little part, in this case a very little part of the episode. Yeah, and I guess to conclude the comedy episode, we had the outro, which was just still shots of the show, which again was kind of just inspired by stuff like Seinfeld and whatever, which is just a still image, or multiple still images from the show. There's not even really highlight areas, it's just some of us laughing and some really awkward poses and stuff. Just whatever potentially can make you laugh. Nothing in particular. But yeah, I liked it. Yeah, so that was me, the director. In terms of writing for the episode, everything's still improvised. I just planned out how everything was going to be. Only really the intro credits was scripted. The pre-credits thing, which again was me doing it all by myself as it was. And the me talking with Bryn and Michael was not scripted, but the idea, told them what I wanted to do in the scene, and we followed that idea, and it worked pretty well. So yeah, see you guys in the next video where we talk about my favourite episode of the show, the morning show edition. See you then.